Okay, modelers, so today we're going to be starting on a little 72nd scale Golden Wing series from Dragon. It's the Droop Snoot, the P38J. Now, this is a fairly basic little kit. There is a 48 scale of this, I think Academy does it. But yeah, I haven't built this one yet. I've got a friend that built one. He said it's a very nice little kit. I mean, it's basic. The engraved panel lines are probably a little bit too severe, but I mean, that's just what you get with some kits that have got a little bit of age on them sometimes. So anyway, guys, we're going to start off on this one and see how we go. And I'll just open the box up so we can have a quick look inside and see what goodies we got. Okay, got our instructions now. I've had a quick look at these before. The instructions are just like a fold out, what the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages there to put it all together. It's all fairly basic instruction. It all goes together, you know, like in fairly big chunks. It's not too detailed. They've got a few different markings. We've got this set here and these guys on the back here. I'm just going to go with the one that's on the cover here, the Bombardier, whatever it's called. I'll just have a quick look here. Yeah, Bombardier. This is the one I'm going to go with. It's got some nice decals with it. I love the little colour scheme that's got going, the red noses on the props, and yeah, so it looks quite nice. So I'm going to go with those decals or those markings. As you can see, we've got a little bit of etch in here, a little bit of photo etch. It's nothing too amazing or too severe. It'll be okay. The canopy looks nicely moulded there. The little glass piece on the nose looks to be quite nice. Panel line, like the panels over those, look to be fairly good actually. They're not too thick. Sometimes you get older kits like old Airfix kits and stuff like that. You've got big thick panels that run over these things, but they look quite nice there. With some weapons, some wheels, all our fuel tanks and wheels and things like that. Noses for the engines on that part there. A little sprue here with a few more bits and pieces. That's got the interior there. A couple of little bits and all their wings and fuselage in the bottom piece. So we'll say it's a fairly basic sort of build, but what brings life to this kit or to this aircraft is the beautiful markings. And I mean, we're going to use this time around the AK metallised paints. I'll just pull one out here to show you. These guys here, these AK extreme metal paints. I'm going to try these out on this aircraft and see how we get along. I haven't got many colours in this, so I'm not going to be able to do like a lot of different coloured panels and things like that. But with the olive drab nose and the inside covers of the engines in olive drab and the red noses on the engines, hopefully it'll break up that silvered look anyway a little bit. But I will put a few extra panels on there in different colours, but like I say, I've only got what 4 of these, so yeah, we'll see how we go. But yeah, this will be a good aircraft to try those out on. Being 72nd scale, it's tiny, so I'm not going to be trying to cover huge areas with it and, you know, mess up a great big job. This is only something small. If I mess it up, I'll go back to the MacLeods. But anyway, guys, I'll get started on this and I'll turn the camera back on as we start going through. Okay, modelers, so hopefully you're able to see this. I'm getting the camera as close as I can sort of get it to show you what I'm about to explain. Forgive the raindrops. I'm actually working in a shed, so you're probably going to hear the raindrops in the background. Got a bit of a storm going on at the moment. But there's a couple of photo etch parts in this, and you can see them in the nose here. They're fairly easy to do. There's only a couple of folds on each part and put them in the nose. But one of the things you have to be aware of with this kit here is it will be a tail setter unless you put some weight in the nose. Now, I've got a bit of weight here, which is just a lead sinker, which I shouldn't be handling with bare fingers, but the fishing sinker, I'm picking it up for a couple of seconds. If you're going to be playing with lead, guys, please put some gloves on or something to protect yourself from lead. Lead will absorb into the body, so anyway, lead has to go in here somewhere. Now, I'm going to try and put it back into this blank spot you can see back here. The idea of that is because you're going to have a clear nose, you can see a little bit back into the front of this cockpit here. I'm going to paint this green as well shortly, but you won't be able to see all the way back up here to the back of the gauge dash. So I'm going to put the lead up about here somewhere. It's a lot more lead than what it recommends for the kit. The idea is the kit's saying put the lead up a little bit more towards the nose to help it, but I want it fairly well hidden to make sure we definitely can't see it, so I'm going to set it back in here somewhere. Now, I've used enamel paints to paint the interior green in this. That's the only reason for that is I haven't got the acrylic paints to do that colour. So I've just used some Humbrol enamel paints to do the interior. I'm going to put the separate parts in there, make sure everything's painted. Then I'm going to put a clear coat over it and give it a bit of a wash. And the other great thing about this kit is, I'll just bring it over here to show you, put it in the shot here, is we've got some seat belts. Absolutely beautiful. Now obviously they have to be painted, so I'm going to paint those before I put them in place, and I'll use a little bit of super glue to super glue them down. Now the edge parts that are up the front that you can see, they haven't been glued, they haven't been soldered. All you need to do is just sort of fold them up, and all I've done is use super glue to attach both those pieces to the inside of the nose there. But so far everything's fitting okay. I just noticed when I do a bit of dry fitting with the top half of the fuselage here, it's going to be a little bit out of alignment. We are going to have a few gaps, as you can see. Hopefully I get this to focus, you'll be able to see when it gets in there. You can see we've got a few gaps going on there, guys. So obviously this is not the most beautiful fitting kit in the world, but we'll be able to work with that. It's not overly bad. We'll be able to work with that and fill those in okay. But everything else, like the cockpit and everything, fits together fine. So anyway guys, I'll keep cracking on, and when I get to the next step I'll turn the camera back on for you. Okay modelers, so the part we're up to now, I've got the centre part of the fuselage is together there, and as you can see I've still got to weather the cockpit up. This camera's had a little bit of trouble focusing there, sorry, but I still have to weather that up a little bit. I'll put the green in there. Green's nice and stable. I've painted the parts that have got to be black. They're painted black now, and I've just got to do a little bit of weathering there. Now these parts go together fairly well. Now one of the tips I can give you is, see you haven't got the dark grey paint over those seam lines, and you can see those seam lines are standing out. Now as I sand that down, I'll show you the other side here, I started sanding that down, and you can see where it's gone back to the bare plastic and where it has left the dark grey paint there. Now that gives you a good idea of when you got down to your seam lines and when you've got rid of them. Now obviously I'm going to have to rescribe some lines in there and so on, but that's not much of a problem. It's just, this is a good little tip. I put it around the edge of the wings, down the fuselage halves and anything like that. Just gives you a good idea of when you're sanding down where to stop. Now off to the side here I've got the fuselage halves together. Being a Lightning, it's got two fuselage halves. Now the fit is not very nice on these. As you can see, there's some pretty nasty gaps in there. Okay, now what I'm going to have to do is fill those up as I go along, but I dry fitted these to make sure they went together okay, and they do go together not too bad, but I actually had to file off the pegs that go into the holes to line it up, because they're a little bit off center. So if you leave the pegs on there, it's going to leave it off center, and there's a lot more work to do. So I've done some dry fitting, a little bit of sanding and filing, and I've got them down to that stage there. Now they're glued together. I've got pegs on there to hold them till the glue is set, and I'm going to put the grey paint around where the seams are, and hopefully I'll be able to file that back and sand it back to where it's a nice neat fit. Okay guys, I'll leave it at that, and when I get the next step I'll turn the video back on. Okay modelers, so we're at the stage, I've got the silver paint on there. Like I was saying, I use the AK Interactive stuff, the extreme metal paints, and they're actually quite nice. It probably looks a bit bland on this, sorry about it, just bumped the camera, probably looks a bit bland on this wing here. I had a bit of an accident with this thing. It fell off the table, there's a bit of an indentation there. It scuffed all the paint up, and I resprayed that wing. I didn't prep it properly, so it's got a bit of a dull appearance over that wing there now. But at the end of the day, I'm going to sort of dull a lot of this down anyway. It's a bit too shiny for an aircraft that was actually in use, so it will be dulled down a bit, like when I do a few washes and things like that. The other thing I'm going to do is try and do a little bit of identification on different panels. I'll paint them a little bit separate colour now. The problem I have is that I've only got a couple of colours in the AK Interactive, and one of them's more of a stainless steel, which is a blue sort of colour, which I don't really like. It's just a bit too bluey looking. Another one's a bit of a gold colour, which it's just not going to look right either. So what I'm going to actually have to do is try and spray some Alclads over the top of this stuff. Now it's going to be a good experimentation to see if I can put Alclad over the top of the AK stuff. If it doesn't work, I'm going to have to sand it back and put the AK stuff back on there and just be satisfied with one colour. One thing I've noticed with the AK stuff, I've tried to mix a few different colours to make some colours up, and some of them don't mix. Some of them do, but some of them don't. So it's a bit of a hit and miss affair, and I haven't got enough colours to play around with it enough. I will order some more when I get a bit more cash, but so that's my plan at the moment, put the Alclads over the top and see how that goes. Now the only preparation I've done with this, I'll give it a bit of a light sand with 1000 grit sandpaper, just to clean all the seams and stuff up like that. I used the Alclad black base on this rather than the AK stuff, because I just wanted to see if the black base from Alclad would be a good base for these, and it worked fine. So the AK goes over it no problem at all. And the AK, I didn't mist it on like you do with the Alclad. Like we all know with Alclad, you've got to mist it on and build it up. If you put it on too thick, it just goes cloudy and it just destroys the finish. With this, I didn't do that. I put one quick mist coat over it, then I just sprayed like a normal coat like you would have with any other colour, and it's come up really, really nice, like I say, except for the wings where it's been dropped and I made a bit of a mess of things. Most of the seam lines are definitely gone. There's a couple that you can just see. But the idea of this aircraft, I didn't want it to be I wasn't going to worry about spending the time to make it a perfect showcase build. It was more experimentation to do with the paints and stuff like that, and to see how our decals hang on to there, to see how we go with our washers and pin washers, and a bit of weathering. We'll see how things come up. So if you see a few details on this that aren't up to scratch, that's why it's not really, I'm not doing this for a showpiece. It was just a bit of experimentation type of thing. I mean, it's still not like it's ugly and really unneat, but it has got a few faults with it. I've got a 48 scale of this. It's a bit of an older kit. I think it's Academy from memory. It's not on my shelf, I can't see it, but I think it's an Academy one. The Droop Snoot with the cut-out nose there for the Bombardier. And that's the one I plan to do a really nice job on when I get around to building that kit, because I've seen that built up. Because it's bigger, you can put a bit more detail on it. So this one here is just a bit of a play around, guys. So anyway, I'll get on with this now. My next step is I'm going to tape off and do the olive drab over the cowlings on the engines and over the nose, wherever that needs to be, and any other colours. I'm not sure if there's any other colours. I think there might be a couple more little bits and pieces, the red on the props, things like that. I'll paint all those, then I'll go on to doing the decals, put those on, see how they settle down over this paint surface. I may give it a really light mist coat in future, but I'm just not sure. I'll do it underneath first, just to make sure it's not going to wreck the look of it. I don't like the look of a clear coat over a metal finish, because it just looks like a metal finish with glass over it, and it just doesn't look right. So I'll try and do it without that, but if I have to, I'll put a little bit on there and tell you how that goes. So once the decals are on, then it's starting to do the pin washers and so on like that. But I'll be turning the camera back on at those stages and showing you how we go with that. So anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next part of the video. Okay, modelers, so I've pretty much finished off the model now, and like I say, I didn't do this to be like a picture perfect model, and there's a lot of mistakes on this, and there's a lot of little pieces that need to be adjusted and fixed up if I was going to put this in a competition or try and put it on some sort of display. But all I really wanted to do is to make sure that the AK interactive paints worked okay. And what I've done, I've put the decals on there. They've settled down beautifully over the paint. As you can see, the little red ones over here, and this guy over here on the wing. I'll just pull that into focus a little bit more. They've settled down beautifully. Now, one of my subscribers gave me a tip about getting decals to settle down, and what the tip is just like a decal solution like this. I use this one here, the Mr. Mark one. I'll put that on there. When it starts to crinkle up, I use some makeup swabs, which is these fellas here, just little cotton swabs. And the idea is to dab down on it nice and straight, okay, straight down and straight back up. If you sort of move it at all, it will move the decal around, and especially when you've got that on there, it softens the decal up. If you move it around, it's just going to destroy the decal. So you've got to be very careful when you do it. But honestly, once I've done it, I've done some decals over lots of panel lines here, like the nose art, and it just settled in those panel lines absolutely beautiful. So thank you very much for that tip, and I will put this up. I'm going to do another model over there that I've got half built, and I'll do the decaling, and I'll show how this is done properly. Like, I'll actually put it on video as I do it. But I don't want to mention the person's name at the moment, just in case they don't want their name mentioned. But honestly, that's a really great tip, guys, because it's really pushed those decals down. You can see clearly where the panel lines are, and it actually looks like there's paint on there rather than a decal stuck over the top of it. But the AK interactive paint has worked out really nice. It weathered really well. I put a little bit of MacLeod over here on the far wing, as you can maybe see over here, the different colours there, different colour here, different colour on the tail. Just put those over the top just to make sure that it would take the MacLeod stuff okay. It took it beautifully. There's no wrinkling, there's nothing, it didn't react to it at all. I haven't put any clear coat over this yet. I don't plan to, because everything's settled down so nicely, and the decals seem to be hanging on there really well, like they've settled right into the surface. So I'm not going to worry about putting any sort of coat over this. If you really wanted to, you could put a clear coat over it just to make sure everything hung on there okay. The canopy, don't take any notice of the canopies and that, because they're a little bit dirty, and especially inside. I've left some stuff inside that I should take those back off and clean them out. But like I say, this is just a bit of an experiment. One of the things with the lightnings, that I see a lot of people build these things and they don't put any sort of exhaust stains down the back. Now, sometimes I've seen photos of these things in World War II where they've got no exhaust stains, and the engines look fairly much, all the exhaust systems look fairly much the same colour as the rest of the plane. But obviously they have a lot of heat, and when you see some of the other colour photos, there's a lot of heat staining around it, and there is exhaust stains out the back here where they blow out the back. They're not like other aircraft where you have exhaust stains right down to the tail, like big, heavy, thick, but just some nice mild exhaust stains will fix it up. As far as the kit goes, it is a nice little kit, but like I say, there's a few things on there that you have to be aware of. The canopies don't fit very well. There's a few little fine details, like down in the corner of the canopy here, like right down this corner here. This little part there is really hard to mask, and probably if I was going to do this one to be like a display model, I would probably use a toothpick now inside some acrylic thinner and just wipe that paint out of there. I didn't even worry about masking that part because it's just too fine, nothing would hang on there. But you can clean it up with a toothpick and a little bit of acrylic cleaner. Anyway, guys, hopefully you got a few tips out of this. And like I say, it was only to muck around with the AK paints. The AK paints, honestly, I can recommend them. They're fantastic. I've weathered over this. I've put decals over it. I've put MacLeods over it, and everything is really fine. Everything's worked out fine. It hasn't torn up the paint at all. So it's very hardy stuff. It can take a bit of a beating. And like I say, if you want to put a fine mist coat over that to settle everything in, that's fine. You could do that. There wouldn't be a problem with it at all. But anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you got a few tips out of this. My next build will be, I'm not sure yet, but I think I'm going to do some armour. But the next build is going to be a full-on kit where I do something like do it properly and make sure there's no mistakes and stuff like that, and show you the little tips in there to make sure you get everything nice and clean. This was an experiment. Like I say, it's a little bit grubby looking. I'm not even going to take still photos of this, guys, because honestly you'll pick up all the mistakes, and like I say, it's only an experiment. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.